The 2025 Georgia Bulldogs have a very talented roster as they do most years. This includes their sophomore running back Nate Frazier, wide receiver Dylan Bell, as well as defensive players such as C.J. Allen and Dalen Everett. There are also some new 5-stars such as Elijah Griffin. Add on to that transfers such as the Branch brothers and Noah Thomas, and you have a pretty good team that can compete. However, there is one glaring problem that is currently looming over the Dogs, which is the quarterback situation. Gunnar Stockton and Ryan Puglisi have competed for the starting job, and Gunnar looks to be the starter in our first game against Marshall. The problem is the lack of experience both players have, with only one start combined. The other starting options are both true freshmen, being Hezekiah Millender and Ryan Montgomery. It's safe to say that the quarterback position could be a concern going into this season. Actually, it is a concern and why I'm making this video. Here I'll talk about the most likely starter and then all the other guys that could play this year. So let's begin. Gunnar Stockton grew up in Tiger, Georgia, with his dad being an All-American at Georgia Southern and his mom being one of the all-time scoring leaders playing basketball at Erskine College. He comes from a line of athletes and is also a great athlete in his own right. Coming out of nearby Rabun County High School, he put up some of the best numbers in Georgia State history, including more rushing, touchdowns than Jahmyr Gibbs. He also set the Georgia high school record for most passing touchdowns with 177 and had the third most passing yards in state history. In his season, he has the second most TD passes with 55, so he put up some good numbers. However, compared to some of the guys whose numbers he was matching, he was ranked kind of low at 110 as a 4-star. This could be due to the school he went to, as he played against lesser competition than some of the other schools' players such as Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, or even Georgia Tech backup Aaron Filan went to. After initially committing to South Carolina, he ended up switching and committed to play for the Dogs. After arriving at Georgia in 2022, he did not play at all his first season as he was buried down the depth chart. In 2023, he played garbage time in several games, most notably the Orange Bowl against Florida State, but was still behind Brock Vandegrift until he transferred. This past season, in 2024, he played in garbage time as Carson Beck's backup until Beck got hurt the play before halftime in the SEC Championship, and he stepped in for the rest of that game in the Sugar Bowl. In the SEC Championship, while Gunnar did not play spectacularly, he played solid enough for the Dogs to win in overtime and beat the Texas Longhorns. In the Sugar Bowl, he played okay, but several costly plays ended up putting the game out of reach by the end, and Notre Dame won the game 23-10. Going into 2025, it's looking like Stockton will be the starter for the first game of the season and hopefully the rest of the way as well. He's been in the system at Georgia for 3 years now, learning from quarterbacks such as Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck along the way. He'll know the playbook extremely well and also his chemistry with some of his receivers. However, due to his performance against Notre Dame, there are doubts about his skill from the passionate Georgia fan base. Although he put up big numbers in high school and has a big arm, his lack of collegiate experience and average performances leave many people wondering if he's the right guy for the job. Some even think that redshirt freshman Ryan Puglisi should be the starter. The second player that could also start a handful of games is Ryan Puglisi. Growing up in Paxton, Massachusetts, he played football at in-state boarding school Lawrence Academy in Groton. After receiving an offer at 15, he then transferred to Connecticut boarding school Avon Old Farms in Avon. He put up some solid numbers for multiple seasons and then won Gatorade Player of the Year in Connecticut in his senior year. After this, he signed a letter of intent to play with the Dogs after being committed to them for over a year. During his first year at Georgia as a true freshman in 2024, he did not play a single snap, being buried behind several players such as Jane Rashada and the aforementioned Carson Beck and Gunnar Stockton. However, he did play in the G-Day spring game, completing 23 out of 49 passes for 224 yards and 2 TDs. He is very promising with a big arm as well as some rushing game, rushing for 5.9 yards per carry as a high school senior. Due to his lack of experience, he's most likely the backup to Stockton and will be on the sideline for the most part. If everything goes right, Puglisi will be on the bench, except for garbage time moments, such as in our FCS matchup against Austin Peay. Hopefully we'll see him play in several of our non-conference games so he can get experience to become the eventual starter. Now we'll talk about some of the quarterbacks that will likely barely play or not even sniff the field at all. Both of these are true freshmen who will pretty much just sit on a bench and hold a clipboard during games and play scout team during practice. They are not that developed and also have less knowledge of the playbook compared to the other QBs in the system. However, if some injuries happen further up the depth chart, these quarterbacks could see some action. Ryan Montgomery was the 180th best player in the nation in the class of 2025 coming out of Findlay High School in Findlay, Ohio. He put up very good numbers since he started out as a freshman and as a junior was a finalist for Ohio's Mr. Football. However, a torn ACL shortly into his first game as a senior put him out for the entire year, so he hasn't played a full game in close to 2 years. He has a good arm like the other guys, but he also possesses an NFL-like frame being 6'4" and 220 pounds. He's not a great runner, but he can throw on the move and get outside the pocket. Going into this year, it looks like he'll be the third or fourth string quarterback and most likely not play much. However, he could be thrust into the backup or even starting role if anyone above him gets injured or plays poorly. All he needs to do is to study the playbook and gain chemistry with his receivers, so he'll be ready whenever he gets thrust in as a starter. Now we have the final player on our list, a 3-star recruit from Goodyear, Arizona, who played 3 years at local Desert Edge High School. At Desert Edge, he put up great numbers in both passing and rushing before transferring as a senior to Athens to play at Clark Central High School just down the road from Sanford Stadium. There, he was Region Player of the Year while also putting up great numbers in the process. For around 3 months, he was committed to Boise State before committing to play for the Dogs last November. Hezekiah, physically, is very talented. He's got really good size at 6'3", great speed, and also put up great high school numbers. However, since he's a true freshman and there are currently better quarterbacks ahead of him, he'll be fighting with Montgomery for the third string spot. All of what he needs to do is the same as the previous guy, and if any injuries happen, he can be thrust into playing. Currently, Gunnar Stockton is the only player that has even played it down at collegiate football that could be the quarterback. There's a lack of experience, and if Stockton plays poorly, then the position could be very dicey. The same thing can be said if he gets hurt as well. However, I'm hopeful that Stockton can play well. He's got a strong arm and can also run the ball well. He showed flashes against Texas and Notre Dame about his potential, but he still needs more experience. Looking in the future, we have a plethora of guys that could one day be the starter and excel in that role. For now, though, it looks a bit shaky and we have to hope that Stockton plays good. See you guys next time.